Happy Thursday, folks. This is Joshua Smith, and welcome to another edition of the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge. We've got a packed show for you today. It's all about getting the most out of these late summer days. First up, we'll hand the mic over to Gary Moore, who talked earlier with world-class hiker Amy Baker. She summited hundreds of mountains all over the globe and every single peak in northern New England. Whether you're lacing up your boots for the first time or you've just got worn-out trail maps in your glove box, Amy's tips and stories will give you that itch to hit the trail. And later in the show, I sat down earlier with Kevin Lawrence, local wildlife expert, to talk about how critter activities pick up this time of year and what you can do to keep your gardens, compost piles, and porches protected. So hang tight, we've got plenty to cover, and it's all coming your way next.
Hello, welcome to Thoughts Out in the Outdoors. As regular listeners to this program or to my columns in the newspapers know, I'm an avid hiker. And today I have a guest, someone who has hiked so many places in so many different countries that most of us just get to dream about. Many of you listening to this program will recognize my guest today. She's Amy Baker. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, thanks, Gary. Pleasure to have me on here.
Would you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because not everybody knows you, but I would say an awful lot of people do.
Yeah, sure. Before I came to the community, I grew up in Ware, New Hampshire, and then went to college in Plymouth and lived down that way for a while and came up here 24 years ago and started a business as a CPA up here. After I got my CPA, 2 offices now. I have one in Campton, and I've been up here in the community in Woodsville for over 20 years. So I consider this, community my family up here. So. Yeah.
So you've prepared a lot of taxes for local people.
Yes, I work for a lot of people. Like if you're walking around town or everywhere, I probably work for them.
Right. Some of them you may have actually seen on some of the local mountains.
Yeah, it's been really cool to really just see some people here and there on the mountains. When you don't plan on meeting them and they're up there and to catch up. And that's actually how I got into hiking, was from one of my clients. He owns Wilderness Maps. And he started that company, and he hikes around the country, and he creates the maps and is part of that company. And so as a thank you for helping him on his taxes, and he's been one of my clients for years, Edward Rolfe, he gave me some maps. And so I woke up one day, and a guy I went with, we went to New Year's Day up to the Kingsman's, and probably shouldn't have been without all the gear, but we made out in the snow and back. But it was a long day, our first time without any knowledge. So,
How long ago was that?
That was 12 years.
12 years?
11 years ago.
Wow.
Yes.
And you certainly haven't let anything hold you back since. I know that you've hiked everywhere.
Yeah.
So why don't you start out by telling us a little about some of your hiking adventures?
Yeah, well, after I finished, the 48s and 67s, the highest in New England, I just felt kind of lost, and I signed up on a trek to go overseas, and did a 2-week hike way out in Lagavulin Trail in Iceland, and really just changed my life. I think, I used to be a lone hiker because it's quiet. I'm with people all day long, and I just wanted to go just to try something different. I was a little skeptical. Because, you cook meals with others, you're with 20 people, and you're like sharing cots, and you're all together in proximity, no electricity, and way out there. But it actually was really life-changing. Just really learning other cultures, helping each other with the languages, learning resources, and cooking together, and just the bonds that you build, and just seeing how much more is out there and how high they are. It's just amazing.
And sharing that experience with others. And
it's just people. I have friends around so many countries now that
So Iceland was your first major excursion?
Yes, overseas. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2 weeks, no power. You brush your teeth and you're teeth are cold for 2 days because, the glacier water is so cold and you're so damp. Everyone's sick after a couple of weeks. You have no power, and the northern lights are amazing because there's no electricity. And you're helping each other through it. I mean, a lot of people sign up for these things overseas just to see everything. A lot of people don't have experience. So you're really helping each other through the bad times, really helping each other. And that's what I love the most is, meeting people and helping them and learning.
Well, let's talk about some of the other excursions you've been on, these multi-day, multi-week hikes.
Yeah, well, I did Everest Base Camp. I guess after being on Mount Washington, I wanted to do something higher, something that would, something different, and that really, I didn't realize. Probably yesterday I was reminded when I was hiking up Mount Washington again.
Was that the 42nd time you told me?
43rd time.
43rd time.
Yeah. I sent my postcard to my father saying, "Oh, up here again, 43rd time as usual." Sending the postcard from up there, and I thought about things and just how I've grown, and people along the way, they'd be looking at me, and I was like, why are they looking at me? And they look at my pack, and my pack has patches from all around the world, and they said Everest Base Camp, and I didn't really realize how big deal that was because I just signed up for it. I got complete anxiety before I went, and when you hike 125 miles in a foreign country, you don't know what to expect, and they all have really grueling times.
So when did you go to the base camp at Everest?
That was about 5 years ago during monsoon season.
Yeah.
I decided to go. Not many people go because it's monsoon season. They don't recommend it. But I hired a guide, and there were 2 other people that signed up, and it was hard in the pouring rain all the time, and they didn't have power a lot or food a lot because it's a slow time of year. But we only saw 30 people the whole time, so out of everything. So that was about a 2-week trek, another 2-week trek.
That's probably the most famous mountain for anyone to climb. I mean, throughout the world, if you're a hiker, you know about Everest and the various expeditions and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it and you just want to go further because you're at 18,000 feet, but you can see we were very fortunate. Most of the times when you go to Everest area Himalayas, you cannot see Everest. But we were very fortunate during that time to see it several times. And Hillary Step, and you look at it, it's only like a mile and a half away, and you want to just keep going, but you can't without. And I actually wouldn't want to. I guess that's, I don't know. I just, So I just. Yeah, to think that I've done that, and I hiked with 2 people there. They were in my group, and they'd never hiked before. I was like, first I'm like, are you kidding me? This is real. People don't really come prepared. But it was amazing.
I need to take a break here for a commercial. We'll return and talk about more of Amy's hikes around the world.
It's the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
Remember that beach chair you bought a few years back? Your website is kind of like that beach chair. You got it to relax and enjoy the good life, but right now, it's just hanging in the shed. At Northeast Kingdom Online, we turn that sun-faded, forgotten website into a business-growing, lead-generating machine. Need more customers? More sales? More people finding you instead of your competitor? We've got you. Don't let that website just lounge around. Put it to work. Visit northeastkingdomonline.com today. Your future customers will thank you.
Need something to do that the whole family will love? Running Water Recreation next to Farmway in Bradford is here for you. Check out Archery Tag. It's a bit of dodgeball, a bit of combat sports, and a whole lot more fun than family therapy. Come see why it's the hottest new sports trend. It's perfect for all ages, even for your grandpappy. You'll even have a chance to see where you score nationally against players throughout the U.S. Running Water Recreation. Have fun, keep moving, and aim high.
Welcome back. And remind you, my guest today is Amy Baker, one of the hikers that I've envied for a very long time. She's hiked more places than most of us can dream of. Amy, we just talked about the Everest Base Camp hike. You want to talk about some of the other spectacular places?
Well, I would say Portugal was amazing. A lot of people do Spain or Portugal, the Camino, but if you know me, you know that I don't do hikes that are pretty popular. So I signed up to do the Fisherman's Trail in Portugal, and that was the first one on my own, really, without going with a guide overseas. And I just figured I'd take a pack and go from hostel to hostel. And the first day I met some girl she was from Italy, and it was amazing just learning. We would teach each other the language, and we really helped each other along the way through the foot of sand. We had very long days. It was one of the hardest, I think, as far as the sand, the deep sand. Mm-hmm. And then the other one that I really, really enjoyed that people don't know about is the Camino Ronda in Spain. And if anyone wants more information on any of these, just feel free to reach out. But that, you're hiking along. I just signed up and went on my own again, and flew into Genoa and took the bus. And you can really get your way around if you do the research on the train and buses nowadays. And so went along the coast there, and you're going through tunnels that are back in the ages, and the English ages and the Crusades, and that was really fabulous. That was really different for me, and that was really spectacular instead of doing the hiking in the mountains, and I really liked that.
Now, did you do that alone, or did you have another group?
I did that alone. Actually, I didn't meet a lot of people, which I found that I really missed. I met some people along the way, but they weren't doing the whole thing because it's pretty long, and you have to hike very long to stay somewhere. So I was disappointed. I found that maybe I just enjoy the group thing now, and learning and just helping each other through. So that I enjoyed, but I would recommend going with someone on that one. Yeah, definitely.
But if I remember correctly, the first time I met, we talked, and you were at that time known as a very fast hiker.
Yes.
Who seldom did anyone hike with you because they couldn't keep up. They would start with you, and you'd meet them at the end.
Yeah.
Have you slowed down?
Yeah, when I hiked Mount Washington yesterday, I thought I had slowed down. I actually think I have slowed down because I'm more cautious. I hike over these, and since I hurt my head in a bike accident, when I have a brain injury, I'm very weary of falling, and I can't believe really that I never really had fallen hiking all these years. But I think I am still quite fast, about 20 minutes a mile still, but now I just take my time.
Yeah.
So before it was a rush because you had a goal, but I really...
Well, you were trying to do the 46 in a relatively short time, the Hampshire 46.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was
that
like...
48, yeah.
48, I mean, every time. Yeah.
Yes.
Every time you had a day off, you were off racing up or down a mountain.
Yeah, and then I'd hike, I'd work all night to get 3 in a week and all that. And so then you're like, why did I rush? And that's what I recommend to people. Don't rush. Really just take it in, because you only get 148, you only get 167. And they'll always be there. And I know there's a goal, but you'll miss the goal when it's gone.
Yeah. I got to agree with you, Amy.
Yeah.
It took me probably a dozen years to do the New Hampshire 48. And, Don Carlish, as some of you know, a retired doc from Geisel School of Medicine. And he's my normal hiking partner most of the time. We call ourselves the persistent plodders.
Oh, yeah.
We spend a lot of time solving the world's problems and talking to anybody we meet. So we definitely don't set any speed records. But, the older I get, the more I realize, the old adage, stop to smell the flowers.
Yeah.
Well, stop to see the views as you're hiking up or down and so forth. And so definitely I would agree with that. You just returned from where, Spain? Recently, within the month.
Let's see, Scotland.
Scotland's the most recent?
Oh, I actually just came from Italy and Switzerland and Iceland again. So,
okay.
Yes, I really enjoyed the Terre de Mont Blanc in Switzerland. Unfortunately, which is fine because I'm grateful for what I've done. There was so much new snow there, I couldn't hike in Switzerland. I hiked along the coast in Italy because my son was over there for college. So we spent Easter, and then I hiked along the coast of Italy, which was amazing. But for me, it was very busy, too busy for me. I mean, a lot of people love that, though. They like to taste the food and all of that. But to go around there with a backpack, it's pretty tough, I found.
I see. Huh.
And then I went back to Iceland for my third time.
Third time to Iceland?
Yeah.
Wow. You must really like it.
I really enjoyed, I went there the first year. They had all those volcanoes and hiked around those with the steam coming up right when they settled. And I find that, and if anyone goes overseas, even for anything, you fly over to Iceland, you get used to the time change. It's only 6 hours, and then you can take a quick trip to Europe. It's very cost effective, and I just, every time I go there, I do the waterfalls or the tectonic plates in the park over there. But to get really in the outback, you got to go 2 weeks, and so I'm grateful that I've done that.
Sure.
So
well, I think that's a good place to stop for a moment.
Yeah.
We'll take a quick break.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
At R&L Archery, we know it's not just about the thrill of the hunt or the size of the fish. It's about the moments that matter most, the traditions passed down from one generation to the next, and the stories told by the fire long after the sun is set. It's about the journey, the memories, and the time spent together with friends and family, because these are the moments that truly last a lifetime. R&L Archery, where every adventure begins. Come create your story.
North Country Organics is a proud sponsor of the Outdoor Edge on WYKR. For over 40 years, families have trusted our signature blend ProGrow to make their green thumbs a little greener and to help pass down the joy of growing to the next generation. Because growing things is about more than green lawns, pretty flowers, and delicious vegetables. It's about tradition. Make us a part of your own story and look for us at your local hardware, feed, or garden store. Visit northcountryorganics.com to learn more. ProGrow. It's in the bright blue bag.
You don't have to go far to find some fishing fun in Vermont, and this beloved summer pastime offers many benefits. Spend time with family and friends, explore new places, enjoy the outdoors, and maybe even catch some dinner. The Vermont Fish and Wildlife website offers resources to help. You can watch fishing videos to learn how, register for a free fishing clinic, or find a public access area near you at vtfishandwildlife.com. Vermont Fish and Wildlife invites you to fish Vermont.
Welcome back. Again, my guest today is Amy Baker, a renowned hiker who's been talking about some of her ventures hiking worldwide. But I'd like to return now to a local event. Amy, on the first of the week, hiked Mount Washington for the 43rd time.
Yeah.
Would you tell us a little bit about how emotional that became?
Well, this time I went up there and it was pretty emotional because, I walked by the list, which we all walk by, of the deaths and everything. And I didn't know if I'd be able to hike this year because I, had a brain injury biking last year, and I was up there and I was so grateful for being there. And then I looked at that list and I was pretty emotional because I saw the 3 people there that, were, recently passed in the year last year, and then hiking up yesterday. Some people went up the Cog and they decided to hike down, as you hear, down to the hut, and then they took a wrong trail. They didn't have any water and everything, and I met them because sometimes I go that longer route because it's less busy, and I gave them water.
So were they hiking down to Lonesome Lake?
Yes. They decided to go down there with a little backpack.
I mean Lake of the Clouds, sorry.
Yes, Lake of the Clouds, and they missed the turn for the trail right up, and they went along the Gulf Trail, and that's where they found me, and they're like, how much further? And they didn't have any water, so I gave them water, and they wore they were dressed warm, but that's about it. And that, I told him, I said, that's how someone else passed, a couple weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's for real now. People go online, and so then I went and I saw that list, and I said, gosh, I texted my father saying, hey, I made it, because of course I worry him all these years. I said, geez, I could have been on that list. That could be any of us, or I could have been on that. To be up there in January 6 years ago now, almost, I almost didn't make it,
Would you tell us a little bit about how that happened, 6 years ago in January? What happened?
Yeah, so I went up, and as you know, I checked the weather. And
which way, how'd you go up, what trail?
I went up Andamusick Ravine, because it was closer,
sure.
and I like how that's covered more in the winter, because it's so many glaciers, as you know, in the summer, and icy sometimes. And the weather was perfect, and the storm was supposed to come in at night around 7, and then I was up at the top, after a beautiful day, taking pictures, and with all my gear, double of everything. And what happened was I remember walking down and eating my sandwich, and I threw half it away because I don't eat a lot, and I saw the wind, and it was swirling my hair, and I know if my hair usually goes one side, but it was going everywhere, and I knew something was coming in, and I looked, and just, it was a whiteout near the Lake of the Clouds, and I just threw it down, and I ran down. And by then, it was like, a foot of snow, and my tracks were covered, which, okay, fine. But all I could think about is, okay, I kept going down and down to try and find the trail, and I knew I had to go right, but all I could think about was the Andamusick Ravine and the water, and being sucked in, like I've seen people almost fall in Tuckermans.
Right.
And I went back.
And you're in a whiteout. It's really
a whiteout, and it's 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and it's snowing, and you can't see, and you're just panicking, which, you have to sift through the panic. And I kept going back up to the hut and back down to try and find the trail. And then I kept going deeper and deeper, and I was up to my neck. And people will say, oh, you should have snowshoes. Well, snowshoes do not work in the brush of those trees. You're on top of the trees. As you know, when you're on top of the trees, you're sinking into the trees, and the snowshoes would get caught. And I just remember trying to get back to the hut to try and get my bearings, and I was going to get the map out and everything, but I was so tired from going up and down. I was up to my neck and my waist, and I was just so tired, and I said, I just need to get down to level tree line, get a flat spot, set up camp. So I got down as far, a mile and a half. I looked, I remember the sun going down the side of Monroe, and I said, oh, it's going to be coming down soon. And I could have kept going and probably died somewhere. I said, I'm just going to rejuvenate, settle here for the night with my, bivy sacks. Fortunately, I had a couple of those and all my equipment, and learn that, tarps and tents don't hold in that 80-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and so forth. So anyway, I came out of that the next day. I walked out, I had my, the GPS tracker, which showed me I was in a different area. But I won't go into the whole thing. But in the end, I heard my name called, and they said, Ann, actually. I said, yeah. They said, can you get down here? We can't get to you. The snow's too deep. The brush is too deep. And
so they had started a search for you because you hadn't made it out the night before.
Yeah, they got called, 8 that night, and I always remember I just pressed I remember sinking down on my knees in tears, thinking of my son, and I said, it was 2:10 p.m. in the afternoon. I mean, it was early. I said, I'm pressing this so they have a reference point, whether I make it out or not. I just recommend you give someone a reference point, because at that point I said, maybe I'll make it to the river and I'll follow it out. I didn't know, but I did the reference point, but I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to make it out. Like, I knew that I might not be there the next day. So, I rolled down the cliffs and everything and set up in an open area. I had my mirrors to reflect that. Actually, I don't think they'd ever do anything, but, I just did a lot of things to get through the night, push-ups and sit-ups and all that. But that's a detailed story, but I just remember, and so I went down, but I walked out, at 4 a.m. is when they found me, and for me to be able to do that by myself in that dark wind.
Well, I think it shows two things. One, you are a very prepared hiker.
Yeah, yes.
But two, you had the stamina and determination to do it. You were not going to give up.
Yeah, you have to definitely sift through the anxiety. It would have been very
easy to just give up and go to sleep.
Yeah, you have to sift through that panic, and that's very important, is the panic and sifting through.
I hope all you listeners have paid attention to what Amy's been saying, because I talked to her not long after that incident, and, it could have been another tragedy. Her name could have been up there on that list that she saw earlier this week. All too often, people ride up the cog or ride up the outer road and say, well, I can hike down. That's easy. We're going down. It's a long hike, and weather can move in. And just like the people you encountered earlier this week, they were totally unprepared. No water, no map, no compass, no nothing. And they could have ended up just like the older gentleman who walked off the summit after riding up the cog a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And they found him dead down quite a way, mile from the summit?
Yeah.
It's a sad situation, but you've got to be prepared. With that, I will take another break.
It's the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
So where's the big deal?
Holy shmoly, it's Matt LeCuyer at the Auto Saver Group, St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. This August at St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, it's the Labor Day sales event, and we're dropping prices like never before. All 2025 Ram 1500 Tradesman Big Horde models are dropping 20% off MSRP. That's up to $16,392 off on these trucks. Check out this deal. Lease a 2025 Ram 1500 Tradesman Crew Cab for just $499 per month for 42 months with zero down. No games, no gimmicks, just real savings on real trucks. But hurry, with deals this hot, they won't last long. Come see us at St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, located on Memorial Drive in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, just past the railroad tracks, or online at stjohnsburycdjr.com. St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where Vermont comes to drive.
Stock number SGR 25178. Leases for 10,000 miles per year, 35,000 total miles. 30 cents per mile over. Tax, title, registration extra. Plus have still latest point lease or non-still latest point vehicle registered in household to qualify. First payment due at signing. MSRP is a price set by manufacturer and does not necessarily reflect the price paid by consumers.
Welcome back. Again, my guest is Amy Baker, hiker extraordinaire. We've talked about some of her many adventures around the world that a lot of us would love to do, but probably never will. But I'd like to bring it back more local. The White Mountains are the mecca, really, for the Northeast for people to hike, and Amy has hiked virtually all of them. Amy, why don't you talk a little bit about hiking locally and being prepared and how to stay out of trouble and so forth?
Yes. Well, I would really, and I was reminded on Moosilauke last week when I hiked over there. I was telling someone who asked me, where are you going to hike? And I said, well, I like to go there, and then I like go to South Peak and eat lunch and do a loop around. And he's like, where's that? And it reminded me, I'm like, a lot of people, I can't recommend highly enough, bring a map or have an exit route. You never know, or study it the day before. You never know if there's going to be, a thunderstorm on top of a mountain. Right. Know your other trails. No, don't just go to all trails and, okay, I'm going to do this loop. That's going really blind. That's really important to really know the other routes around that you could feel safe in if you head to an emergency or a storm came up. The other thing I cannot recommend enough is, all these years of hiking, these 48s over and over, I've always left a trip plan. I've left it, sent a map to, my partner or my father, and call my parents at noon, no matter what mountain I'm hiking, or if I'm going somewhere in the outback, I'll text one of my friends, hey, I'm doing this loop today, I'll let you know, because they know the area. That's another thing. If you're going to an unfamiliar area, let your friends know, touch base. And I still, if my friends text me, hey, I'm going here, I say, hey, did you make it back? The trip plan, I cannot stress enough. So many deaths might not have happened. We all make mistakes, but if you can prevent it, showing a trip plan of where you're going in your car. I do that also. Hey, I left at this time, I'm going here. And if you alter your plan, it's important that you let someone know.
Right. And there are reasons to alter the plan when you get up on a mountain.
Yes, right.
But if you decided that you didn't want to come back down the west side of Moosilauke and decided you're going to go down the east side to Ravine Lodge and get a ride around, somebody needs to know.
Right.
Because it doesn't have to be a weather event. You could easily fall,
so many
break an ankle. There's lots of reasons for someone, an experienced hiker like Amy, who's well prepared to still get in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, I hike. You asked me if I hike differently now. I have my times where I hike fast, but mostly I'm very careful because now, keep in mind that all this rain, all the trails are eroded now, all this traffic now, it's a lot different than it was 10 years ago. When you're going down, if you're hiking, try and pick a day where it doesn't rain all night long the night before. It is very slippery. There's been a lot of leg injuries going down the ridge lately, the last couple of weeks alone. If you can, try and check the weather and, okay, it's great today, but did it rain a lot the day before? I think that's very important right now.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners?
No, I just, if you haven't been hiking, or even if you feel like you can, I feel like there's always one that you can. I would say, and if you really want to start hiking, I would just recommend pick a trail on the 52 with a view.
Sure.
They're longer, but they're so beautiful. I would really start with that and take your kids out, or just enjoy the nature, even if you can't do the 48.
52 with a view is a book published by AMC. One of the issues that frequently comes up that Amy and I agree on is not hiking on weekends on the major trails because they're so darn crowded.
Yeah.
But 52 with view takes you to less popular hikes, but ones with spectacular views. They're not necessarily 4,000 footers, but they have great views. There are a lot of short hikes in the area.
Yeah, waterfall hikes, anything,
Yeah, there's a whole list of waterfalls you can hike to in New Hampshire. There's a list of fire towers in New Hampshire and Vermont. Those make nice
that's
hikes.
a good idea, yeah.
Many of them not terribly long.
Yeah.
Right across the river here, the trail that goes up just across the river into Bath from Woodsville. That's not a long hike, but boy, the views up there looking down over Woodsville and Wells River are spectacular.
Yeah.
Relatively short hike.
Yeah, I mean, Groton Forest has some great ones, and
Owl's
Spruce
Head.
Mountain. Spruce Mountain's
Yeah,
a nice
Spruce Mountain. There's been a lot of work done in Newbury on the Tucker Mountain State Town Forest with a real nice network of trails. Same thing, just 3 miles south on the ridgeline in Bradford is Wrights Mountain. They've got a big trail network there. Mm-hmm. You don't have to tackle Mount Washington on your first hike. There's a lot of nice hikes within the sound of this radio station that you can get out and get your hiking legs under you and learn if you like it and slowly work up. Make Mount Washington a goal, but don't make that your first one. With that, my time is up. I thank Amy for being with us. If you want to know more about Amy's hikes and some of her recommendations, next week in the Bridge Weekly, my column More Outdoors will lead off with some information about Amy and a lot about this interview. And also next week in the Caledonia Record, or the Orleans County Record, you can see my column Thoughts Out on the Outdoors with more information. So, thank you for listening in. Amy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Gary, for having me. What a pleasure.
It's a St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
At R&L Archery, we know it's not just about the thrill of the hunt or the size of the fish. It's about the moments that matter most, the traditions passed down from one generation to the next, and the stories told by the fire long after the sun is set. It's about the journey, the memories, and the time spent together with friends and family, because these are the moments that truly last a lifetime. R&L Archery, where every adventure begins. Come create your story.
We have a familiar voice here on the Outdoor Edge. We're welcoming back Kevin Lawrence from the Vermont Trappers Association. Kevin, how are you doing?
I'm really well. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. So I was kind of inspired to bring you back on the show because I ended up at home. I saw something was digging underneath my porch, and sure enough, it was a woodchuck. And because of the Outdoor Edge, I knew to reach out to the Vermont Trappers Association, and they connected me with somebody. And then so the Vermont Trappers Association, the website is a great resource for folks that just want to look for some assistance or just look for some help or some advice or resources on what to do about critters that are around your backyard or in your garden. And so is this the time of year where we see a little bit more around?
Yeah, it seems like this time of year there's folks who are discovering that they love their gardens to mature. However, there's also competition from the local rodents, the woodchucks and whatnot, who get in there. The mice are in there too. The voles, you might not see them, but they're getting their share, but their bites are smaller. But it seems like the woodchucks seem to get a lot of attention this time of year.
Right. And what other animals would people end up seeing in their backyard or in their farms right now?
Well, certainly bears, but not really a trapped animal in Vermont. But skunks are all over the place.
Yeah.
A lot of times, folks will find them out in their lawns, digging up the grubs out there, which it sounds like a great idea. But when they really start to rototill across the surface, there, people sometimes get kind of upset when they, it's like 1 out of every 8 people really loves their lawn. Whereas I kind of detest the idea that it grows at all. But skunks can really get in there. Raccoons also will go after those grubs and make a mess of the lawn. And
right.
And if you can only train them, if they only could be like rototilling at the right spot. But
this is the time of year where we as humans are out and about more, and we're not hibernating, and neither are the animals hibernating. And so we have folks that are out going out hiking, going out in the woods more often. And what advice would you give folks if they end up, what animals would they end up maybe running into more often if they're out hiking or out and about? And what are your recommendations that they should do if they run into a trappable animal?
Well, this time of year, most of the critters are growing up enough so they're pretty independent from their parents. So it's like in the spring, you warn people, don't pick up a fawn or whatever because they're so gullible or whatever. But now they run from people, which is a good deal. But mainly the concern is, what if an animal doesn't want to leave its territory? Recently, there was an Adirondack moose last week who was like not leaving the trail. I was like, what the heck? And it had brainworm, which it caught from white-tailed deer, and they end up having to put that animal down. But that's really the big thing is like if an animal does not back up or back off when you expect it to, probably got to really be careful with it.
Right.
A bear garden, a dumpster, or whatever it is. Okay, I trust you to not bite me if I stay away. But.
Right. And some of the fur-bearing animals that you interact with the most, some of them are more nocturnal, others are more of a daytime. So if you actually see a nocturnal animal out in the daytime, that might be a sign that there might be something wrong with it.
Yeah. 2 years ago, I had a raccoon on the lawn right across from Newbury Elementary School. The village clerk called me up and said, "This coon's not right," and it had rabies or distemper. I'm not sure which. And I went and shot it right on the lawn there, right beside the school. Which was something I can do, but any of us could do, but. Had to be a shotgun, had to be close range, had to be all the things had to line up correctly. But that coon could have easily gone across the road during playground time and caused a lot of trouble.
Right.
Rabies is nothing to play with at all. It's if you find an animal that's not acting right, if it's got porcupine quills in its mouth, if it's got glossy eyes and is snapping around, just got to get away from it really fast.
Right. And now would that be something they would call like the Vermont Fish and Game, or they would call someone from the Vermont Trappers Association, or how would that work?
Well, they should be calling 911, get the Vermont Fish and Game to show up,
okay.
And they will often. I know in Newbury Village we've had the constable come on down and do some work on skunks and things like that too, which is always a great local story to tell. But
right. And how would your average person know the difference between like a nocturnal animal and then a daytime animal?
Well, I think of skunks and raccoons as being very night oriented. They have pretty good eyesight. They move around at night when it's safer for them. Coyotes and foxes, when they're feeding their babies, they're out there during the day quite a bit. But as they get more mature, they'll be more a nighttime animal as well, because they see really well in the dark.
Right. And woodchucks, those are daytime animals.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
they seem to thrive.
Yeah.
Of course, this time of year, you have the babies that are all grown and they have to disperse because their parents will frankly bite them until they move on, to move on to a new area to spread them out. And,
right.
And so they're always seeking a new habitat. And when you think about the safety for a woodchuck, it's away from foxes and coyotes, and so therefore near your home is actually a pretty safe place. They smell around there like, oh, no foxes here. So they settle in and they start digging the holes, which, holes are not the biggest problem in the world. You can try to exclude them with wire and other things, which is what my first recommendation is. But then after that, if you say, well, that hole can also attract skunks, it's going to attract, raccoons probably in the future. And having a skunk under your porch sounds like not that big a deal until they spray once, and then you're like, oh my, it gets into your house foundation or something.
Right.
I've had kids at school who are coming in just stinking, and the poor kids, they're like, oh yeah, well, you don't need to tell me. I mean, there's two things in Vermont that smell like skunk, but when it is a skunk, it's really the worst. It just goes right into their clothing. You can't wash it out fast. And
Right. Well, and that was the thing too. Was like for the woodchuck that came under my porch. It was one of your colleagues mentioned too. Is that if you have a woodchuck digging underneath and next to your foundation, it could cause damage to your house.
Yeah, that's true. The water can get in there more quickly, go down, which is not what you want.
Right.
And it's going to become a generational problem too. It's not just going to be one summer that you'll have this trouble if you don't take care of it. So get the fencing out. That whatever's going to take. One of my grandkids this summer showed me he actually watched a woodchuck go under my porch. And I said, you don't know where you are, woodchuck. This is a bad idea. So he helped me set a trap, and we took care of that one. As much as I don't like to kill things every day or anything, I do feel like sometimes you do that, and then you put it out where the turkey vultures can get to it, and then you got another wildlife show you can watch. Like turkey vultures on my property have a great time. But
if people want to learn more, just try to be a part of the Vermont Trappers Association, what's the best place they could go to for that?
Well, if they did that Vermont Trappers website, you just did that Google search, you'd find that pretty quickly. I know the third weekend in September, we're going to be at our rendezvous up in Barton, Vermont, which is a lot of fun. Folks can find on the website also the itinerary for that. We have a great day of lessons and where people can go and learn different trapping styles, and we certainly have a pig roast and an auction and all that kind of stuff. So it's just a nice outdoor day or two. But,
right.
Yeah.
That's the big event that the Vermont Trappers Association does.
It is. Yeah. We'll have 600 or 700 people show up and a lot of rural folks who just want to get outdoors. And so it's kind of funny. After COVID, there was a lot of folks who were suddenly interested in engaging more with nature, but they also wanted to have a chance to catch their own food and that kind of stuff. And so trapping became a part of that for a lot of young people. It's sort of fun to watch the next generation come up through, not just as the teenagers, but as people in their 20s and 30s who are like, I want reconnection with nature, and I want to do it myself. I don't want to have to pay for it with my meat through a packaged product at the grocery store. So
right.
It's really cool.
I saw an interesting article that showed past presidents, what their favorite meals were. And it was like a lot of the presidents from like the 1800s had like squirrel stew. Like, do people still eat squirrel?
Yeah, the squirrels are pretty popular. You have to slow cook them. They're so muscular,
Yeah.
If they were 100-pounders, we'd all be in trouble, but they're just so strong. And so I really overcook them is my methodology for making a squirrel edible.
Yeah.
But then again, it makes a nice gravy once you get there a couple hours later. So
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, we're talking to Kevin Lawrence from the Vermont Trappers Association. So, Kevin, any final comments?
Well, I don't think so. Just... you don't have to kill every animal that's causing you trouble. If you can find a way to exclude them, you'll be far ahead in the future. But sometimes you need to call a trapper to take care of what needs to happen. So,
all right. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's great to have you back on.
Thank you.
It's the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge on YKR Country.
So where's the big deal?
Holy schmoly, it's Matt LeKire from the Autosaver Group, St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Make this the summer event is happening right now in St. Johnsbury, Vermont. It's summer and it's time to take on every road in legendary Jeep style. Only at St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, lease a brand new 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo for just $359 per month for 24 months with zero cash down. That's right, zero money down, just pure adventure ahead in one of the most capable, comfortable SUVs on the market. Whether you're commuting through the Northeast Kingdom or escaping to the mountains, the Grand Cherokee delivers power, technology, and luxury that stands out. But don't wait, deals like this won't last last long and inventory is moving fast. Come see us at St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, located on Memorial Drive in St. Johnsbury, Vermont, just past the railroad tracks, or online at stjohnsburycdjr.com. St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, where Vermont comes to drive.
Stock number SQJ 250109. Leases for 10,000 miles per year, 20,000 total miles. 30 cents per mile over. Tax, title, registration extra. Must have current latest sprint lease or non-still latest sprint vehicle registered in household to qualify. First payment due at signing.
Outdoor Almanac with Peter St. James. Brought to you by New Hampshire Fish and Game's Wildlife Journal.
When it comes to a couple of species of non-game birds in New Hampshire, heading north will take you south, or at least to the southern end of their respective ranges. I'm talking about the gray jay and the spruce grouse. Now, while I wouldn't categorize either of them as common, they do reside in Coos County. The gray jay looks like a cross between a tufted titmouse and a chickadee. The most common characteristic of the gray jay is their lack of shyness. They're very tame and will hang around a camp or a campsite, stealing whatever food they can get their beaks on. And with a little patience on your part, they can also be trained to take food from your hand. Coincidentally, the spruce grouse is so tame, it's been called a fool hen. They're so inquisitive and unshy that humans have been able to come within 2 or 3 feet before the grouse takes flight. If you want to find a spruce grouse, look in and around evergreen trees, because that happens to be their principal source of food. Speaking of food, to get a gray jay to show itself, just have some food around. That should do the trick. The prime difference between a spruce grouse and the more common ruffed grouse or partridge is the coloring. The spruce grouse is darker and more gray instead of the light brown of the partridge. So this winter, when you're in the North Country snowmobiling, ice fishing, or cross-country skiing, keep your eye peeled for 2 more of New Hampshire's lesser-known natural resources.
Outdoor Almanac is brought to you by New Hampshire Fish and Game's Wildlife Journal, the magazine for people with outside interests.
So that's going to wrap up this edition of the St. Johnsbury Chrysler Dodge Jeep Rams Outdoor Edge. A big thanks to Amy Baker for her expert hiking tips, and to Kevin Lawrence for the wildlife insights, and of course to all of you for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show or you want to give it another listen, you're in luck. This episode will be available on demand starting tomorrow at WYKR.com and as a podcast on your app. So make sure you've downloaded the WYKR app if you haven't already. And starting next month, we'll be shifting back into our fall and winter schedule, which means Outdoor Edge will be broadcast twice a month, airing on the first and third Thursdays. So mark your calendars and stay connected for more stories, tips, and local voices that you won't hear anywhere else. Until next time, stay safe, enjoy the outdoors, and we'll catch you down the trail.
WTWN Wells River, W286DE Wells River.
Serving Northeast Vermont and Northwest New Hampshire since 1976. WYKR, Haverhill. It's 7 o'clock.